Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. This session focuses on language change and shift in Pakistan. I hope by the end of this session you would be able to understand the ideas of language change and shift, particularly in relation to the linguistic scene of Pakistan. Well, my dear students, at the outset of the session, I think it would be a good idea to define language change. Though I hope and expect that you already know what language change is, but just to refreshen our understanding of that, I would say language change is variation over time in a language's phonological, morphological, semantic, syntactic, and other features. So, language change can take place at various levels, at multiple levels, or at any of these levels, morphological, semantic, syntactic, etc. Language change is studied by historical linguistics and evolutionary linguistics. And, it comes under the broader umbrella of sociolinguistics. How does language take place? When we talk about that, well, language changes take place across space and across social groups. Languages also change across times. So, the change takes place horizontally and it takes place vertically as well. So, generation after generation, as people use a language, pronunciations evolve, new words are added into the languages. This is the vertical change that takes place. In the same way, the same language, when it is used by different groups, group A, B, C, and D, for instance, in a community, at different spaces in this global community. So, they vary in terms of variety, and changes occur as, people move, for example, from one place to other as well. When it comes to these language changes, I would just like to throw light on the different aspects or types of these changes, and then I would try to relate these to the Pakistani context. Generally speaking, different types of language change include lexical changes. If we think of the ongoing flux of the new words that come into a language and we try to relate it to the Pakistani context, for example, in Urdu language in Pakistan, a lot of language change has occurred in terms of lexical choices. A lot of words are taken from English language and they are not only borrowed into Urdu language, but they are used so frequently that they have become they're considered to be a part of Urdu language. Even when we open the dictionaries of Urdu language, we find a lot of such words there. These changes that have taken place on the lexical level in Pakistani sociolinguistic context, they have not only occurred in the national language, they have also taken place in the local languages in relation to English language from where the words are borrowed. This is not something that I would say is new to or unique to Pakistan. Throughout the world, this is how it has been happening. And when it comes to English, throughout its history, English has not only borrowed itself from other languages, through the periods of Old English language to the Middle English to the early modern English to the current times. At every stage, it has borrowed words from other languages. But this is not the only role of English. English has also lent a lot of words to other languages. As far as the phonetic and phonological changes are concerned, if we trace the history of sociolinguistics, actually we can find in the 1960s the major work of William Labov, who recorded changes in pronunciation that he recorded in Martha's Vineyard. And they showed actually how, different social tensions and how, different social processes in relation to, language used by different social classes, they have an impact on pronunciation. When we try to relate this idea to, the Pakistani context, in fact, certain accents that we hear, of, for example, of Urdu, or certain accents for that matter that we come across of Punjabi, or certain accents of English language, they reveal certain social class, and regional identities. When it comes to changes in language, spelling changes are a significant part. Standardization of spelling originated relatively recently in English language. Initially the spellings were not, standardized. When it comes to Pakistan, and the use of spelling, the major shift is from the British variety of spelling to the American variety of spelling. And in fact, if we look at it from the academic purposes, most of the times we find a mix in the writing of the students where, some spellings that they use are from the British variety of English, whereas the others are from the American variety of English. And the process of change actually is taking place because of the influence of media, whereas the textbooks typically in Pakistan are written in the British tradition of English language. The influx of impact of American media has, in a way, if you allow me to use the word, confused the students in terms of spellings, and a new mix is being created and it is being freely used by the youth. When it comes to the semantic changes in the meanings of existing words, is one dimension of the semantic changes that may take place in a language. Semantic changes do not take place, in isolation. Actually, they are always a reaction to, or they are motivated or triggered by the sociolinguistic factors taking place in the society. In the current times, when we look at, the overall, for example, development of English, a lot of semantic changes have occurred because of this introduction of social media and because of the technology and a lot of inventions that are being done through the times. And all these, have influenced the whole global community of the speakers of English language. And in that sense, I would say that Pakistan is not an exception. As far as the syntactic changes are concerned, the evolution of the syntactic structure over time takes place, but it does not take place very rapidly. Syntax is one of the areas, where, language changes very little, where it changes with a very slow speed. However, syntactic changes take place when the push and pull forces of different languages work. When we look at the overall view of the linguistic change in Pakistan, what we notice is that, in terms of changes at these different levels, as I have discussed, are taking place. But alongside that, one of the major, phenomena that is taking place is of language shift. I would just define for you what is language shift, though I hope and expect you already know what language shift is. Language shift, that is called language transfer, language replacement, or language assimilation as well. It is the process whereby a community of speakers of a language shifts from the use of one language to a completely different or another language. Well, this does not take place in one day, that one day you would wake up and there would be a shift from one language to A. The speakers or a particular group of the users of a language, for example, language A, would stop using it and would start using language B. No, it doesn't happen like that. It's a gradual process that takes place over time, so it is extended on a longer period of time. When it comes to Pakistan, we need to understand that because one of the major triggers of this shift is that a variety of language that is considered to be of high prestige, generally there is a shift from a lower prestige language towards that. So to understand the sociolinguistic scene of Pakistan with reference to shift, we need to understand the prestige factors attached to that. Before I give some example from Pakistan, I would give you an example from the global context. Shift from, for example, Gaulish to Latin that occurred in what is now France during the time of the Roman Empire was one of such examples of the prestige issues. If we come to Pakistan, shift to Urdu from the local varieties of languages and dialects in Pakistan is one of the examples of that. Particularly the shift that is taking place from Punjabi language to Urdu language in the Punjabi speakers in the region of Punjab is one of the major examples of the language shift that is taking place in the sociolinguistic context of Pakistan.